Hello, I am Trey Hodge and I'll be going over the Harmon Tower. The Harmon was a planned hotel along Las Vegas Boulevard that would go down in history as a high-profile example of construction failure and dispute resolution. The city center development was a massive mixed-use urban complex located right off the Vegas Strip that would feature a casino, hotels, resorts, shopping malls, and condominiums. It was designed for approximately 18 million square feet of floor space across 67 acres of real estate. The project was developed by MGM Mirage and Dubai World in a joint partnership. The entire project would cost $8.5 billion and would become the largest privately funded development in United States history. Construction on the project began in 2006 and completed in 2010. As you can see in the picture, you have the Aria Resort and Casino in yellow, the Vidara Hotel and Condominiums in brown, the Veer Towers in blue, which is a condominium complex, the Crystal Shopping Center in green, the Mandarin Oriental, now the Waldorf Astoria, in red, which is another hotel. And in the purple, you can see the site of what was supposed to be the Harmon Hotel. The Harmon Tower was a planned 49-story luxury hotel and condominium tower that was to be located at the corner of Harmon Avenue and Las Vegas Boulevard. It was to include 400 hotel rooms and 207 condominiums, half of which had been already reserved prior to completion. It was a defining feature of the overall city center skyline, and its prime location and extravagant design was meant to attract a young and wealthy clientele. The high-rolling project team for the Harmon Tower includes the owner-developer MGM Mirage, who partnered with Dubai World. The general contractor was Tudor Perini, a company that brings in an annual revenue of $4.5 billion. The world-renowned architect Foster & Partners, whose most notable work includes the prestigious Apple Park in Cupertino, California, and the Reichstag renovation in Berlin. The inspectors include Conserve Consultants, who were the primary inspectors for Harmon Tower, and Weidlinger Associates, who did other city center work and investigations post-calamity of the Harmon. The key subcontractor is Pacific Coast Steel, who was tasked with the steel reinforcements of the project. From a pedestrian's perspective, the Harmon looked to be progressing well during its construction, getting up to 22 stories high. However, the county's inspection determined that the steel rebar reinforcements on 15 of the 22 floors were not to the desired design specs. This immediately halted construction and eventually led to them determining that the hotel's design be changed from 49 stories to 28 stories, completely removing the 207 condominiums that were originally planned. It's also worth noting that this was around the 2008 recession. Upon further investigation, it was found that there were 62 falsified inspection reports of the Harmon that were submitted by Conserve Consultants. Conserve had only 2 inspectors on the building, and one had almost zero prior experience in this type of project. It would be determined by Weidlinger Associates after the halt in construction that the building could collapse if struck by a 7.7 magnitude earthquake, causing concern for the safety of the public's welfare. MGM would end up determining that the Harmon Tower was a lost cause and announced that they would demolish it, but not before finding out who was at fault for the disaster. This is when the finger-pointing began and everyone went at each other. Tudor Perini would strike first against MGM, filing a suit claiming that they are owed $492 million in unpaid construction fees for all of City Center. MGM would immediately counterclaim against Perini, citing breach of contract and shoddy work by Perini and its subcontractors. Clark County would also decide to file complaints against Perini and Pacific Coast Steel while also blaming the inspectors for the structural errors. Perini was also claiming that the architect's designs were flawed and were a reason for the failure. It's actually almost comical reading through all of these disputes. The lengthy battle would come to a head on December of 2014 between MGM and Perini in a jury trial that was predicted to go on for another year. On the day the opening statements were to be read, a global confidential settlement was announced between the two parties. MGM agreed to pay $190 million in fees to Perini and City Center, 150 of which was solely to Perini. Prior to this, Pacific Coast Steel had settled with the county for a fairly small fee and didn't have to claim any wrongdoing in the matter. In 2013, the court approved the demolition by MGM of the Harmon Tower before even the battle with Perini had been settled. Starting at the end of 2014, the Harmon Tower would be deconstructed floor by floor, culminating in 2015. In the Harmon's place, 63 City Center, or Project 63 as it is currently called, was built. It is home to retail and quality restaurants. Although the Harmon ended in failure, it has still taught some valuable lessons to the industry. Inspections should never be overlooked, and more measures need to be taken to ensure that they are done properly, even if it means more third parties need to come into play for large projects such as this. Accurate documentation needs to be taken, and a vetting process for subcontractor employees may be a worthwhile venture. Companies like MGM and Perini could benefit from a more proactive approach to litigation and arbitration, avoiding lengthy battles. And finally, a demolished project can still always lead to new opportunities in the reuse of the land for something beneficial to the public. Thank you all for listening, and I hope you have learned something about the Harmon Tower.